Good evening, and welcome to Mining the Riches of the Parsha. Tonight is Thursday night, December 18th, 2025. In 1981, the first night of Chanukah was on Friday night. And the next day, Shabbos, the first day of Chanukah, was the bris for our oldest son. He was born on Shabbos, the Shabbos before, and the bris was on Shabbos. So on Friday afternoon, it was quite hectic in our little apartment in Baltimore. We had to get ready for Shabbos. We had a newborn baby, and neither of us knew what to do. We had to light the Shabbos, the Chanukah Menorah. We had to light the Shabbos candles. We had to do the last preparations for the bris. It was very hectic. This year, tomorrow night is also Friday afternoon will be hectic for me and probably for you. For me, of course, Shabbos is beginning. It starts early. We have to light the Chanukah Menorah and the Shabbos candles. This Shabbos is also Rosh Chodesh. And we are particularly privileged this Shabbos to have a number of guests, including a part of our beautiful family will be with us. I hope that I've learned to cope better in the last 44 years. So tomorrow afternoon, we have the classic contrast, lighting the Chanukah Menorah and then lighting the Shabbos candles. Now on the surface, both mitzvos are similar. They're both lighting lights. And the differences between them are the best way to explore the meaning of each of them. And that's what I'd like to do with you this evening. This, by the way, is the pedagogic manner that our rabbis present Chanukah in the Gemara, in the Talmud. It's in the second chapter of Masechta Shabbos, the tractate that deals with Shabbos. So the second chapter, which is familiar to many people, starts with the words, Bama Malikin. What do we use to light the Shabbos candles? And what are we not supposed to use to light the Shabbos candles? And that chapter contains many, many details. The rules about the Shabbos candles, where to light them, when to light them, which oils to use, which wicks to use, and all of the rules concerning the Shabbos candles come from two imperatives. Number one, on Shabbos itself, we want to benefit from the light of the Shabbos candles in order to illuminate our home. That's number one. We want to benefit from the light. And number two, on Shabbos, we're not allowed to move the lights. We're not allowed to adjust them. If they would happen to go out, we're not allowed to relight them. So those are the two imperatives. And all of the details of Shabbos candles derive from those two imperatives. Now, once the Talmud is discussing the rules of Shabbos candles, from that discussion, the rabbis in the Talmud proceed to discuss the contrast between the Shabbos candles and the Chanukah Menorah. Because the Chanukah Menorah is different. Number one, we may not benefit from the light of the Chanukah Menorah. We say this when we light the lights. Haneros halalu kodeshem. These lights that we're lighting, they're holy, they're sacred. Ve'ein lanu rishus lishamish bahem. We are not allowed to get any benefit from their light, like to read a book by the light of the menorah. Ela lerosim bavad. We're just supposed to look at them. The lights of Chanukah are purely to publicize the miracle of Chanukah, the victory of the Hashmonaim over the Yevanim, the religious Jews over the Assyrian Greeks and the assimilated Jews. Now, for the Chanukah menorah, we are allowed to adjust the lights after they're lit, if necessary. Of course, during the weekdays of Hanukkah. So all of the details of the Chanukah menorah, where to light, when to light, how to light, which oils, which wicks, how many lights, all of the details of Chanukah menorah come from these imperatives, these two imperatives. And the contrast between the two is based on the underlying reasons for each mitzvah. Because the reason we light the Chanukah menorah is to fulfill the purpose of Pirsume Nisa, to publicize the miracle. And the reason for Shabbos candles is to help create Shalom Bayis, harmony within the home. The home should be lit and illuminated so that people can enjoy themselves on Shabbos. Now, I need to explain this detail. It goes like this. The mitzvah of Shabbos candles is formalized by lighting whatever number of lights you light. Different people have different customs. The actual minimum is 1. Many people have the custom to light 2. Some people have the custom to light more than that for different reasons. Whatever number you're going to light. But we light Shabbos candles with a bracha, a blessing, and that's the formal experience of the mitzvah. But the complete mitzvah is also fulfilled by the electric lights that we have on in our house, that we're going to be using in the rooms that we're going to be using on Shabbos. So, leaving the lights on that we need, for example, in the living room, in the dining room, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, that's part of the mitzvah. Because the mitzvah is, for Shabbos candles, we shouldn't be stumbling in the dark on Shabbos. So, we have a formal lighting with a bracha in honor of Shabbos, but the electric lights that we leave on in the rooms that we need is also part of the mitzvah. Because the idea is we're not supposed to spend Shabbos in the dark. Obviously, in the bedroom, you want to go to sleep, you leave the lights off. But in the rooms that you need light, you have to have lights on. Now, what if there is a conflict between these two mitzvahs? A conflict between Shabbos candles and the Chanukah menorah. Which takes precedence? So the Talmud discusses this. The Gemara discusses what happens if a person only has one candle on the Friday night, which is Hanukkah. Now, as I mentioned to you, both Shabbos and Hanukkah lighting can be fulfilled minimally with one light. Hanukkah also could be fulfilled with one light. Of course, we light more each night. Tonight we lit 5, tomorrow night 6, etc. But if a person, the minimum is one light for Hanukkah. So you have only one candle. And you have to choose. You could do one mitzvah, but not both. Which mitzvah takes priority? And the Talmud rules, yes, that the one light should be lit for Shabbos, and you forego Hanukkah. Now, that is a surprising decision, because, first of all, both mitzvos are mitzvos d'Rabbanan, they're rabbinic mitzvos. So it's not like one has a higher level of authority than the other. If one was a biblical mitzvah, the other was a rabbinic mitzvah, it wouldn't be a question. But here they're both rabbinic mitzvahs, so they're on the same level. However, Hanukkah has an additional element which would seem to give it priority, because the Chanukah menorah, as I said, fulfills Pirsume Nisa, publicizing the miracle. And that's why in Israel we light the Chanukah menorah outside of our home, And outside of Israel, we light the Chanukah Menorah, usually, if we can, in the window so that people could see it. The Talmud refers to the Chanukah lights as mitzvah chaviva, a mitzvah that is dear, that is cherished, which is not the case for Shabbos lights. Rabbis don't say anything like that about the Shabbos lights. So it would seem that the Chanukah Menorah is more important than the Shabbos candles. Nonetheless, the Talmud rules, if you have to choose, and you can only choose one, the Shabbos candles take priority, because the Shabbos candles, by illuminating our home and creating a warm and festive atmosphere for our family, that leads to shalom bayis, to harmony and peace within our family. And shalom bayis trumps pirsumei nisa. Having harmony within our home is more important. If you have to choose, it's more important than publicizing the miracle. Why? Why should that be? So let me read to you what Rashi says. I'm reading, of course, a translation. Rashi says, before seeking to achieve great spiritual accomplishments and promote the pursuit of lofty religious goals, like publicizing the miracle of Hanukkah, we must see to it that the primary needs of the members of our household have been met. We have to take care of our family first. Although broadcasting the message of the miracle of Hanukkah to the world is indeed a most important value, it may not come at the cost of peace and stability within one's home. To say the same thing in different words, a number of years ago, when Rabbi Aharon Lichtenstein passed away, his son, Rabbi Meir Lichtenstein, delivered a hesped, a eulogy. And he communicated some of the lessons that his father, the great Rabbi Aharon Lichtenstein, had taught his family. And among them was the following. Ner Chanukah, the lights of Chanukah, represent pirsumei hanes, publicizing the miracle. That represents the community. Ner Shabbos, the Shabbos candles, represent the family, so the family can eat together in harmony. Ner Shabbos takes priority. Listen to these words. You never put the community before your family. That is so, so important. And so many people get tripped up on that. You never put the community before your family. And this is particularly important on Friday afternoon, that is Hanukkah, because inevitably, for most of us, it's hectic. And when things are hectic, it is easy for tempers to flare. So we have to be especially careful tomorrow afternoon that even if we have both Hanukkah lights and Shabbos candles, still we remember the lesson that Shalom Bayis comes first. What's the definition of Shalom Bayis? So the Talmud gives a definition. Now, the Talmud was speaking about a husband speaking about his wife, but it applies equally to a wife towards her husband and to any family member. The Talmud says that a husband should do the following. Ohev es ishto kegufo. A husband should love their wife as much as he loves himself. Umechabda yoser megufa. But he should show greater honor to her than he shows to himself. Greater honor to her. And the same applies to a wife, and the same applies to children, to parents, etc. So, just in time for this annual challenge, I have some help for all of us. There's an article written a number of years ago in the New York Times. It was written by Jancee Dunn, a woman who is a therapist, a couples therapist. 8 things you should never say to your partner. Number 1, I never said that. Don't ever say that. You always, or you never. You always make a mess. You never put the dishes away. Don't ever say that. First of all, it's usually an exaggeration. And second of all, a person can't defend themselves against always. There's nothing to say. There's no response. If there's an issue, it upsets me. I feel upset that today you didn't put the clothes in the hamper. Talk about now. Raise the issue about now. And the other part of this problem is when you go back into history, now you're talking about something else. You're talking about what I did 20 years ago or 40 years ago. Focus on the problem at hand. I feel upset that you didn't put your dishes in the dishwasher. Okay. Don't ever say the following. Yes, but. Right. Yes. So the other person voices a concern. And you say, you're working too long hours. Yes, but. Once you say the word but, that means that it's really perfunctory for me to recognize that you're upset about it because there's a really good reason. Yes, I'm working long hours, but there's a reason for it because whatever it is. It doesn't give any validity to what the other person is saying. You're undercutting what the other person is saying. Next, don't ever say this. Don't ever say this. You should be more like, and fill in the blank. You should be more like my mother. You should be more like your mother. You should be more like so-and-so. Don't ever do that. It is never a good strategy. It's not going to work out. Because first of all, when you compare people, you're going to lead to jealousy. You're going to lead to arguing and issues of self-confidence and issues of self-image and self-esteem. It's never good. Okay. Don't ever say this. You're overreacting. No person will agree that your opinion is valid about my reaction. I'm reacting the way I'm reacting. In the same line, don't ever say, calm down. In the history of the world, there has never been a time when a person heard the words calm down and then actually calmed down. Never. It has the opposite effect. Last, don't ever say, if your partner has a concern, it's not that big of a deal. That's belittling, and it's inaccurate, because just because you think it's not a big deal, obviously your partner thinks it's a big deal. You can't measure what someone else is feeling. So, I'm speaking to myself. If we can watch ourselves and refrain from these kinds of comments, then shalom bayis will be much easier for us to achieve. I want to go to a slightly different subject. And I want to discuss a passage from a couple of weeks ago, the Parsha Vayetze. So let's just remember what's happening. Yaakov leaves home, and his mother tells him, go to Lavan's house, and you should find a wife. And Yaakov goes to Lavan. He marries first Leah, then he marries Rachel. He marries the two maidservants, so he has 4 wives. He has children. It's going to be a total of 12 sons It's only 11 in the Parsha, but one more in the next Parsha, Binyamin. He's there with Lavan for about 20 years. He's working as a shepherd, raising flocks, and he and Lavan have an arrangement of what Yaakov's pay should be. One day, after about 20 years, all of a sudden, Vayomer Hashem al Yaakov, God speaks to Yaakov and says, Shuv el eretz avosecha u'lemoladetecha. Go back home. It's time for you to go back to Israel, where you were born. Ve'ehyeh imach, and I will be with you. It's going to be okay. It's going to be good. I'm going to take care of you. Now, God says to Yaakov, go back to Israel. So, here's what Yaakov does. Vayishlach Yaakov vayikra l'Rachel u'Leah. So Yaakov calls his wives, Rachel and Leah, and he says to them as follows. Now, there's a long passage. He says to them, you know that I've been working for your father Lavan for about 20 years. And you know that he has cheated me over and over and over again. Whatever deal he makes of what he's going to pay me, then he tricks me to get out of it. And he changes it at the last minute. And he's always cheating me and always trying to get out of whatever promises he made. And so, I really don't see a future for us here. Then he says, Anochi ha kale beis kale, asher mashachta sham matzeva. God, he quotes God. He says, God who I dedicated a monument to when I left Israel over 20 years ago. Asher nadarta li sham neder, and God made a promise to me that I would come back to Israel and that God would protect me. God said to me, Kum tsei min haaretz hazos, get up and leave the place that you are, v'shuv el eretz moladetecha, and go back to where you were born. So Yaakov is speaking to his wives, and he gives them two reasons. Number one, you know that we're miserable here because Lavan is such a liar and a trickster and a con man. And number two, God said to me, it's time for us to go back to Israel. Vatan Rachel v'Leah, vatomar nalo, and Rachel and Leah answer him, and they say to him, Kol asher amar Elokim elecha aseh. Everything that God told you to do, you should do. Now, that is a very, very strange passage, and I'll explain why. I want to quote to you from a great scholar, Rabbi Yeshaya Halevi Horowitz. He is known by the name of the Sefer, the most important work that he wrote, called the Shaloh. Stands for Shnei Luchos Habris, the Shaloh. He was born in 1565. He died in 1630. He was born in Prague. Later he lived in Yerushalayim. And later he lived in Tzfat. So he asked the following question. How is it possible that God says to Yaakov, it's time for you to go back to Israel? And Yaakov goes to his family and he says to them, listen, it doesn't make any sense for us to stay here. This is not our future. Your father is a cheater. And secondly, God told me to go back to Israel. Why is that how could that be the second reason? I mean, if God tells you to do something, you don't need any other reasons. Why didn't Yaakov just say, God said, it's time for us to go back to Israel? Listen to what he says. I'm going to quote his words. Ein roi la'adam k'sheyirtze dava mibnei beso. It is not appropriate when a person wants something from a family member, sheyacharim al zeh ba'ones, that he should command them, even if it's against their will. For someone to say, this is what we're doing. I decided this is what we're doing. Afki hu moshe behem. Even if we're talking about a situation like a parent speaking to children, the parent is, we're not partners. The parent has the responsibility to tell the children what to do. Even in that case, a person shouldn't say, I command you, I order you. Afilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaveh. Even if it is God that commanded, you should not communicate that to your family members in a way that is a command. Rather, lihishtadel osam ad shirotze lefasos. You should explain it to them. You should ask their opinion. You should tell them, what do you think? How will this work? But tachlis mimashe efshar, as much as it is possible, kikach yoser tov, mayase retono, mimashe yase al tzad ha'ones v'hechrach. It is much better for a person to do something because they are convinced that it is right, rather than because they are commanded or ordered. Ra'a kama ravu dvarav Yaakov el Rachel Leah. See how many words Yaakov uses. I didn't read the whole thing. It's almost a whole page in this chumash of explaining how Lavan had cheated him. See how many words Yaakov uses to Rachel and Leah, Kadesh Yisratz B'tiv Leiv, in order to convince them that it's in their best interest to leave. V'afal pisha Kadosh Baruch Hu yitzaveh lebeisa, even in the situation where God told him to do it. At home, with your family, you don't speak like that. It's a powerful, powerful lesson. Let me share this story. I heard this story from Rabbi Biederman. The story concerns the Slonimer Rebbe, one of the great, great Hasidic leaders and teachers. And it happened when the Rebbe had a son who was 6 years old. And it was the Friday of Chanukah. And they were about to light the Chanukah Menorah just before Shabbos was going to start. And the 6-year-old boy, broke the menorah, and all of the oil spilled on the floor. And there was not enough time to set up the lights before Shabbos started. Once Shabbat starts, you can't light lights. So the boy was afraid. How is it that we're going to be able to enter Shabbos without Hanukkah lights? He was afraid of what his father would say. So his father said to him in a very gentle voice, just like God commanded us to light the Hanukkah lights, God also commanded us to not get angry. And finally this, from Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Hanukkah commemorates one of the greatest military victories in Jewish history. We say this in the prayer that we say, Al Anisim Rabim Biad Ma'atim. You had a gigantic Assyrian Greek army. You had a handful of Yehuda Maccabee and his family and a few other people. One of the greatest military victories in Jewish history. Yet Jewish law rules that if we can only light one candle, that is, we only have one candle to light, Shabbos light takes precedence because in Judaism, the greatest military victory takes second place to peace in the home. Why did Judaism, alone among the civilizations of the ancient world, survive and no one else survived? Because it valued the home more than the battlefield, marriage more than military grandeur, and children more than generals. Peace in the home mattered to our ancestors more than the greatest military victory. So as we celebrate Hanukkah, spare a thought for the real victory, which was not military, but spiritual. Jews were a people who valued marriage, the home, and peace between husband and wife above the highest glory on the battlefield. In Judaism, the light of peace takes precedence over the light of war. And I think that is a worthy message to appreciate tomorrow afternoon as we light both the Chanukah Menorah and the Shabbos candles. My friends, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat.
I wish you a beautiful evening and a wonderful, peaceful Friday afternoon and a terrific Shabbos, Chanukah, Rosh Chodesh. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.